Welcome to Screen Blast Repeat. This is our top 50 albums of 2025. We reviewed 267 albums this year, and like in 2024, we moved away from death and black metal and focused on the more experimental and post-metal artists. Thrash metal and grindcore remained on our radars, and we examined the occasional metalcore and deathcore album, though these genres are of negligible interest to us. Screen Blast Repeat's core purpose, when we founded it in 2020, was to find the darker forms of heavy music while not forgetting the exhilaration of technical metal genres. But this is harder to do with each passing year. It seems that everything that can be pioneered has already happened. Can we expect extra strings on guitars or lower tunings? Are there new vocal techniques waiting to be invented? Will speed levels go beyond the blast beat? Where are the new subgenres? More importantly, how will the deception of artificial intelligence intrude onto the music we love?
The metrics do not support the idea that metal or rock music is in the ascendancy for today's generation of digital listeners. If you ignore Linkin Park, there is only one metal band in the top 100 streamed artists in the world, and that's Metallica at number 92. So where are the next generation of metal groups to replace them? Well, maybe this is the wrong question. Perhaps this is a good thing. Now that the mainstream is no longer limited to a small number of media, today's devolved musical ecosystem allows us to listen to the music we like without relying on the small pool of artists fed to us by a radio controller or television programmer. The algorithm that noted a listener's preference for Metallica will recommend other bands in the thrash metal genre, for example. So everything's available at the click of a button or the swipe of a screen once you've found your niche. But the album is in danger of dying out as a structured piece of art, with AI deceptions infiltrating Spotify playlists and attention spans reducing thanks to the relentless march of TikTok. We stand defiant at Screen Blast Repeat and celebrate the glory of the album as the ultimate listening journey. These are the Screen Blast Repeat Top 50 Albums of 2025. So let's start with the first 10. At number 50, we've got Max Cavalera and his groove metal veteran Soulfly with their album Charmer. At number 49, we're going to Tampa Bay, Florida for Meat Wound with their record Macho. At number 48, we're going to England for the band Ren with their new LP Black Rain Falls. At 47, we're staying in England and it's Pupil Slicer with their album Fleshwork. At number 46, one of the biggest bands on this list, Spiritbox, with their latest LP Tsunami Sea. At number 45, a return to form from New York avant-garde black metal group Imperial Triumphant with their new record Gold Star. At number 44, here's a name that has been around since 1990, Paradise Lost, English gothic death doom legends with their latest record Ascension. At number 43, back to America, it's Agriculture with their record The Spiritual Sound. At number 42, back to England once again, it's Grief Ritual with their new LP Collapse. And at number 41, progressive metal legends Between the Buried and Me with their latest effort, The Blue Nowhere. And we're now moving into the top 40, so we're going to be counting down from number 40 to 31. And we're going to start at number 40 with the Iranian melodic death doom project Shivered with the album Chains. At number 39, we're going to Finland. Alternative progressive metal group Rion with their latest LP Kept. At 38, we're staying in Finland. The group is Suniva with their album Hypostasis. At number 37, keeping it dark, international extreme metal band Defacement with their latest effort Doomed. At 36, English metal legends Cradle of Filth with their latest album The Screaming of the Valkyries. At 35, we're going to go to Denmark for the hardcore group Eyes with their latest album Spinner. At number 34, English death metal legends Cancer with their latest LP Inverted World. Number 33, do you like Maori thrash? You should do. Alien Weaponry with their latest effort Te Ra. At 32, we're going to stay with thrash metal, the English death thrash project Tictalica with the album Gods of Pangaea. And at number 31, we're going to Leeds, England for the blackened hardcore group Acceptance with their latest album Crucifixion of Orchids. Are you still with us? You should be, and we're just testing. At number 30, we've got Sangui Sigabarg with their album Aftermath. At number 29, black and death metal project Chest Crush with the latest LP, Soul Extractor. At 28, do you like grindcore? King Parrot with their album A Young Person's Guide to. At 27, Norwegian progressive metal titans Green Carnation with their LP A Dark Poem Part 1, The Shores of Melancholia. And at 26, back to England, London specifically, for the death metal group Vacuous with their album In His Blood. And we're now reaching the important part of this top 50. We're going to count down the top 25. And coming in at number 25 is the Manchester black and heavy metal band Woad with their album Uncrossing the Keys, released on the 3rd of October via 20 Bucks Spin. Woad take the spirit of black metal, the pomp of heavy metal, and the bloodlust of early thrash and do it with no apologies. Those that prefer the group's early material will be glad they kept their corpse paint on until the end. At number 24 is American melodic death doom legends November's Doom with their album Major Arcana, released on the 19th of September via Prophecy Productions. Powerful chorus rituals that you can repeat with your chest out are as natural to this band as blood to a vampire. You might not have an ecclesiastical robe, but you'll need one after opening your arms to the heavens and lowering your head. Paradise Lost's new record is a strong effort, but it's not as enthralling as Major Arcana. At number 23 is Phil Anselmo's black metal supergroup Scour with their debut album Gold, released on the 21st of February via Housecore Records and Nuclear Blast. Featuring members of Agoraphobic Nosebleed, Pig Destroyer and Misery Index, you'd assume Scour would go hard on the grindcore side of things. They don't. This is satanic black metal. You can feel the smoke at the back of your eyes and taste the sweat at the end of your nose as you swing your head in time to the action. Coming in at number 22 is Italian avant doom rock band Mesa with their album The Spin, released on the 11th of April via Metal Blade Records. We've said it before, but Mesa's art is what Susie and the Banshees would sound like if you asked the classic lineup to record an LP with heavy guitars. You dare not contemplate lost lovers or those that departed from your life, but maybe that's what you need to do. Here's the music to unlock those dormant feelings. At number 21 is progressive groove metalers Byzantine with their album Harbingers, released on the 13th of June via Metal Blade Records. The audio engineering is near perfect, yet Harbingers still radiates with the human agency of musicians motivated by a love of rock and metal. It's an art they create with their own bare hands and raging hearts, and it hits the mark on every listen. Okay, we're now entering the top 20. No time for you to go and grab a coffee break. Stick with us. At number 20, we have Swiss tech thrash legends Coroner with their comeback album Dissonance Theory, released on the 17th of October via Century Media. It's true that they're not a million miles away from Megadeth in peak form when they make the swerving riffs serve the vocal lines, but this is a band that understand how to invoke a sense of dramatic tension in their music without complicating things. At number 19, we're going to Scotland for the dark avant-garde choral music of All Men Unto Me with the album Requiem, released on the 27th of June via The Lavarium. Those that fell in love with the Reverend Christine Michael Hayter, aka Lingua Ignota, in 2023 will be quick to add this to their playlist. There's a colourful felicity to this album underneath the dark meditation, but you're always on edge and waiting for your nerves to shatter. Coming in at number 18, US modern thrash titans Warbringer with their album Wrath and Ruin, released on the 14th of March via Napalm Records. It's safe to say that the legendary thrash metal bands of the 1980s can retire in the knowledge that their custodians from this century will keep it alive. Like the last Enforced record, the adrenaline levels are dangerous. We're going to Sheffield, Yorkshire at number 17 for the post-black metal band Baal with their album The Fine Line Between Heaven and Here, released on the 18th of July via Road to Masochist Records. Baal have a high tolerance for melody in their intimidating soundscapes. They also appreciate the power of contrasting dynamics. Much of this is a black metal frenzy punctuated by violins and ear-splitting screams. You might lose track of the different sections on first listen, but it's easy to immerse yourself in the drama. At number 16, we're going to Puerto Rico for the avant doom rock band Moths with their album Septum. It's a self-release and it came out on the 1st of August. As an album that invokes a cabaret of lustful vampires in gentile clothing, Septum does not allow you to switch off for a single second. We might lament that rock and metal prefer conservatism to dynamism these days, but Moths are ready to challenge your skepticism.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Sorry, I've always wanted to include that in a video. At number 15, we're going to the USA for the mathcore band, the Callous Daoboys, with their album I Don't Want to See You in Heaven, released on the 16th of May via Monarch Heavy Records. To say they pack many things into tight spaces on this record is an understatement, but you'll still find plenty of room to breathe. The riffs are sharper than the last album, chromatic patterns and the usual screeching chords amongst the chugging action provide most of the sustenance, but that start-stop nature of the music leaves your body in a state of confusion. At number 14, we're going to the US. The band is Wake with their album The Return of Magic. It was released on the 14th of March via Relapse Records. The timbers of this music are multifaceted. An underlying trauma bubbles in the background, but the forces of light, in this case melody, are ready to combat it. There's always a heroic rock element to the action here. That's what makes it a pleasure to absorb. At number 13, we're going to New Zealand for the longest band on this list. Tech metal extremists, blindfolded and led to the words with their album The Hardest Thing About Being God Is That No One Believes Me, and this one was released on the 10th of October via Prosthetic Records. Think strapping young lad covering Today's the Day with Dead Guy at the control desk. This music is too intense to allow the listener the luxury of a wandering mind. Blast beats and foaming guitar intervals rip at your facial muscles every time you try to zone out. And of course, the technical arrangements are stupendous. At number 12, we've got the supra-European progressive post-metal band Inner Kabbalah with their album We Are Solitude. This was a self-release and it came out on the 4th of April. If this is post-metal, it's a substream that shares little in common with the roster of artists on New Rot Recordings, and when these boys look into a grinding metal riff, they do it like Gojira. It sits at the intersection of anthemic rock and sophisticated prog metal. What's not to like? At number 11, we have the Canadian post-metal band Low Heaven with their album Ritual Decay. It was released on the 29th of August via Monarch Heavy Records. Like Cult of Luna and Isis, Low Heaven don't do riffs, but they specialise in ugly noise when the mood calls them into an incandescent rage. Atonal chords and high-pitched screams trespass into a dark tunnel of doom metal. The way they jump between high and low volumes is like the Pixies under the influence of Today Is the Day. If you've made it this far, you should be ready for the top 10 albums of 2025. Let's begin at number 10. And it's the album from French avant-garde metal group Igor with the record Amen, released on the 19th of September via Metal Blade Records. When we classify something as different, we often mean it in an underhand way, implying that it's too unorthodox to understand, yet too intriguing to dismiss as nonsensical. Igor cannot be accused of the latter, even if he celebrates the former. Underneath the beats and swerves is a man who loves his metal music. At number 9, we have the self-titled album from progressive death metal group Rivers of Nile, with their album that was released on the 30th of May via Metal Blade Records. A pervading sense of agony permeates through this record, but it's an agony born of a desperation to survive. Much of this record feels like a progressive death metal rhapsody. That may seem overly ambitious, but Rivers of Nile have the materials to achieve what they set out to do, and nothing can hold them back. At number 8, it's the return of mathcore hardcore legends Dead Guy with their comeback record Near Death Travel Services. It was released on the 27th of June via Relapse Records. There's no need to worry about unexpected offbeats or start-stop frustrations on this record. Dead Guy are, after all, a hardcore band. Why would you want to go back to overproduced extreme metal once you've absorbed something as agitated and as pure as the song Knife Sharpener? It's not about melting the face of the listener, but making them wake up to the world around them. At number 7, we have the London-based avant-garde metal collective Dawnwalker with their album The Between. This was a self-release and it came out on the 24th of October. The Sacred Angels and their excommunicated brethren stand off against each other in the heavy parts, with light and dark wrestling like two equal creatures. Dawn Walker show how doom metal can be hopeful with a composer's mindset. A belief in the radiant light as the way forward is essential to this realization. At number 6, we're going to the USA for the blackened progressive metal group Dawn of Ouroboros with their album that came out on the 7th of March 2025 via Prosthetic Records. Most of Bioluminescence is a strawberry picnic in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. You'd expect your brain to reject this music with so many contrasting styles dragging you in different directions. Many artists struggle to resolve this, but Dawn of Ouroboros mastered it on their last album and make it look seamless here. Okay, we're getting closer to the finish line. These are the top 5 albums of 2025. And beginning at number 5, we're going to the United States for the progressive death metal band Fallujah with their album Zenitaph. It was released on the 13th of June via Nuclear Blast. The listener is never an agent in control of their senses when listening to Fallujah, but that's the mysterious power of their art. They might bludgeon you in one passage and then relieve you with a refreshing glow of warmth in the next. The luminous shapes appear before your eyes in the closing title track, like neon squares imprinted on your retinas. It's easy to get lost in this composition if you switch off for even 1 second, but that's because of its immersive qualities. At number 4, we have Bay Area thrash metal legends Testament with Parabellum. It was released on the 10th of October via Nuclear Blast. There's no reason to expect big things from album number 14, so why have they unleashed a beast of a record at this late stage of their career? What happened to this band? Did they decide that thrash metal was not heavy enough for them? This is more like At the Gates with the ferocity of Immortal. The energy is as inspiring as any young band starting out on their debut LP. At number 3, we're going to England for the groove metal band Employed to Serve with their record Fallen Star. It was released on the 25th of April via Spinefarm Records. Who remembers where metalcore was something to fear? This is how it should have evolved after Killswitch Engage, knowing when to unleash mayhem and when to temper it should never be a 50-50 equilibrium. Employed to Serve are wise to slant this 85% towards the former. It's an intoxicating experience you'll want to repeat. At number 2, we have the English post-hardcore progressive rock group Indifferent Engine with their LP Speculative Fiction. It was released on the 30th of May via Church Road Records. Speculative fiction is not an enigma. There are no puzzles to solve. You might not understand the exact reason, but its momentum is too powerful and persuasive to resist, like when you know that something feels right and will work out in the long run. Yet this LP is not afraid to rock. Is it art rock or post-hardcore? Who knows? Who cares? It's what Indifferent Engine intend it to be. And finally, we reach the number 1 spot. Drum roll please. The number 1 album of 2025 is Today's the Day, Never Give In, released on the 3rd of October via Supernova Records. Compared to 1994's Willpower album, much of this record is a million miles away from the extreme noise rock that made Today's the Day a force in the underground. If this is alternative rock, it's a harrowing interpretation that'll make you tear the hair from your head with callous fingers. The Reverend Christine Michael Hayter could benefit from a listen to this as she plans her next album for Lingua Ignota's fanbase. Today's the Day is seldom at the beginning of the conversation about avant-garde metal, but they're never left out either. They ought to be higher in the family tree. Congratulations to Steve Austin and Today is the Day for landing the number 1 spot on the Scream Blast Repeat Top 50 Albums of 2025. We'll see you next year.